Queen Yuna sat on her throne made of living crystal. The crystal was warm under her hands. It glowed with soft blue light that matched her mood. Today was an important day. The humans were finally coming. She had waited for this moment for 3 months. The humans had sent message after message asking for a meeting. They wanted to talk. They wanted peace. They wanted their people back. Yuna smiled at that thought. Her soldiers had captured 300 humans from mining stations near her borders. The humans were weak creatures. They had no claws. They had no thick skin. They could not see in the dark like her people could. They were soft and small and easy to catch. Her people, the Valari, were the greatest empire in this part of the galaxy. They had conquered 12 star systems. They ruled over 40 billion people. Every species they met had fallen before them. The Rothani with their 4 arms. The Kellic with their hard shells. The Merle with their poison blood. All of them now served the Valari Empire, and all of them had been stronger than humans. Admiral Hayok walked into the throne room. He was tall, even for a Valari. His silver skin was covered with the scars of many battles. He had led the attack on the human mining stations. He had brought back the prisoners himself. "The human ship has entered our space," Hayok said. He did not bow. He was too important to bow. One small shuttle. No weapons. No escort. One shuttle. Yuna leaned forward on her throne. They send one shuttle to meet with the ruler of 12 star systems. "They are either very brave or very stupid," Hayok said. "I think they are stupid." Yuna was not so sure. She had read the reports about humans. Her scouts had watched them for many years. The reports were strange. They did not make sense. The humans had technology that was sometimes better than Valari technology. But they also had technology that was much worse. They were not consistent. They were not logical. They were chaos wrapped in soft skin, and yet our ancestors had never invaded human space. 12 star systems conquered, but the 17 human worlds remained free. Why? The old records did not say. They only said that invasion was not advised at this time. It was 200 years ago. The advice had never changed. "Bring the human to me when they land," Yuna said. "I want to see what kind of creature they send." Hayok nodded and left. Yuna waited on her throne. The crystal grew warmer under her hands. It could feel her excitement. Living crystal always responded to emotions. The doors opened 1 hour later. Hayok walked in first. Behind him came 4 guards in full armor. In between the guards walked a human. Yuna felt disappointment wash over her like cold water. The human was ordinary. That was the only word for him. He was not tall. He was not short. He wore simple gray clothes with no decoration. His hair was black and cut short. His skin was a light brown color. His eyes were dark and calm. He carried nothing. No weapons. No gifts. No technology. Her guards had scanned him before letting him enter. No cybernetic parts. No genetic changes. No psionic energy. He was just a human. A baseline human. The most basic version of his species. "This is what they send," Hayok said loudly. He wanted the human to hear. "This is the great ambassador of humanity? A nobody? A nothing?" The human did not react to the insult. He just kept walking forward. He stopped at the proper distance from the throne. He bowed, but not deeply. It was the bow of someone showing respect, not the bow of someone showing fear. "Your Majesty," the human said. His voice was calm and clear. "My name is Taiho. I bring greetings from the United Human Territories. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "I agreed to meet with a representative of your people," Yuna said. She let her voice show her disappointment. "I expected someone important. A general, a leader, a warrior. Instead, they send a teacher." She knew he was a teacher because her spies had found records about him. He had taught young humans on a colony world called New Busan. He had taught them history and literature. He had never fought in a battle. He had never led an army. He had never done anything important. Taiho smiled at her words. The smile was small and strange. It made Yuna feel uncomfortable, though she did not know why. I am sorry if I disappoint you, Taiho said. My government thought I was the right person for this meeting. I hope I can prove them correct. And what makes a teacher the right person to speak with an empress? Perhaps teachers are good at explaining things, Taiho said. And there is much I would like to explain. Hayok laughed. It was a cruel laugh. You can explain why your people are so weak. You can explain why 300 of them are now in our prisons. You can explain why we should not add your 17 worlds to our empire. Taiho looked at the admiral. His face showed no fear. His eyes showed no anger. He just looked at Hayok like a teacher looking at a student who had answered a question wrong. I did not come to explain those things, Taiho said. He turned back to Yuna. I came to talk about the prisoners. I came to ask for their release. The throne room went silent. Yuna heard her own heartbeat in her ears. No one asked her for anything. People begged. People pleaded. People offered gifts and made deals. But no one simply asked. Those humans broke our laws, Yuna said slowly. They entered our territory. They are now property of the Empire. That is our way. They were in neutral space, Taiho said. But I did not come to argue about borders. Maps can say many things. I just came to ask, and if I say no. Taiho was quiet for a moment. That strange smile came back to his face. It was patient. It was almost sad. Then I suppose we will have a longer conversation, he said. Hayok stepped forward. His hand moved to the weapon at his side. Is that a threat? You dare threaten the queen of the Valari Empire? You, a weak human with no army, no weapons, no power? It is not a threat, Taiho said calmly. It is just a fact. If the answer is no today, we will keep talking. That is all. Yuna raised her hand. Hayok stopped moving. She looked at the human with new eyes. He was not afraid. He was not pretending to be brave. He simply was not afraid. That was strange. That was very strange. You will stay in the palace, Yuna said. As my guest, we will continue this conversation tomorrow. Thank you, Your Majesty, Taiho said. He bowed again, that same respectful but not fearful bow. I look forward to it. The guards led him away. Yuna sat on her throne for a long time after he left. The crystal under her hands had grown cold. He could feel her confusion. He is nothing, Hayok said. A trick. A distraction. We should execute him and send his body back to his people. Yuna said slowly. Not yet. I want to understand. Understand what? Yuna did not answer. But she was thinking about the old reports. The ones that said invasion was not advised. The ones that never explained why. She was beginning to wonder if she was about to find out. 3 days passed. Taiho remained in the palace. He was called a guest, but he was really a prisoner. Guards stood outside his door at all times. He could not leave his rooms without permission. He could not send messages to his people. He was trapped. But he did not seem to mind. Yuna found herself visiting him. She told herself it was to gather information. She told herself it was to understand her enemy. But the truth was simpler. She was curious. She had never met anyone like him. On the first day, she asked him about human history. He told her stories that made no sense. Humans had invented weapons that could destroy their own planet. Then they had pointed those weapons at each other for 50 years. They had built great civilizations and then burned them down. They had created art and music and literature and then forgotten all of it and then created it again. Your species is insane, Yuna said, as Taiho agreed. He did not seem offended. We are. That is part of who we are. On the second day, she asked him about human technology. He told her that humans did not develop technology in a straight line. They jumped around. They made mistakes. They discovered things by accident. Sometimes they found advanced solutions before they found simple ones. That is inefficient, Yuna said. Very inefficient, Taiho agreed. But it means we have many different tools for the same problem. We do not have one answer. We have 100 answers. On the third day, she asked him why he was not afraid. Should I be afraid? He asked. You are a prisoner of the greatest empire in the galaxy. Your people are weak. Your fleet is small. You have no way to save yourself or your people. Yes, you should be afraid. Taiho looked out the window at the city below. The Valari capital was beautiful. Towers of living crystal reached up toward the purple sky. Flying vehicles moved between the buildings like insects around flowers. 40 million people lived in this city. It was the heart of an empire. Your empire is impressive, Taiho said. 12 star systems. 40 billion subjects. You built all of this in 800 years. That is a great achievement. It is, Yuna agreed. And yet you fear us. Yuna felt anger rise in her chest. The Valari fear nothing. Then why have you never invaded human space? Taiho turned to face her. His dark eyes were calm. You conquered the Rothani. You conquered the Kelek. You conquered the Merle. You conquered everyone you met. But you stopped at our borders. Why? You have nothing we want. We have 17 colony worlds. We have minerals and resources. We have technology you could use. Taiho shook his head slowly. No, Your Majesty. You stopped because your scouts sent back reports, and those reports scared your ancestors. They decided that invasion was not a good idea. Yuna did not answer. He was right. She knew he was right, but she did not want to admit it. Before she could speak, the door burst open. Admiral Hayok ran into the room. His silver face was pale. His eyes were wide. Your Majesty, he said, the human fleet. They are here. Yuna ran to the command center. Taiho followed, surrounded by guards. The command center was a large room filled with screens and holographic displays. Officers sat at stations, monitoring everything in the star system. The main display showed the Valari fleet. 800 warships. The pride of the Empire. The strongest navy in the galaxy, and facing them was a human fleet. 30 ships, Hayok laughed. It was a nervous laugh, but also a relieved one. 30 ships. They send 30 ships against 800. They have come to surrender. Yuna did not laugh. She was watching Taiho. He stood calmly, looking at the display. He did not seem worried. He did not seem nervous. He looked like a man who was watching something he had seen before. Something he already knew the ending of. Ambassador Yuna said slowly, "What is happening?" "I believe your admiral is about to make a mistake," Taiho said. Hayok stepped forward. "You dare, Admiral," Taiho said, cutting him off. His voice was still calm, but there was something new in it. Something serious. "I strongly suggest you tell your fleet to stand down. Do not attack. Let the humans pass. You threaten us?" Hayok laughed again. "With 30 ships? Against 800? I am not threatening you. I am trying to prevent what happens next." Hayok turned to his officers. "Open a channel to the fleet. All ships. Attack formation. Destroy the human vessels. Leave nothing but dust." Yuna watched the display. 800 Valari warships moved forward. They formed a perfect attack pattern. Their weapons powered up. Their shields activated. They were the strongest navy in the galaxy. They had never lost a battle. The 30 human ships did not move. The Valari fleet fired. Thousands of weapons lit up the darkness of space. Energy beams and missiles and plasma bolts, it's all aimed at the tiny human fleet. And then the human ships moved. Yuna had never seen anything like it. The human ships did not fly. They danced. They moved so fast that her eyes could not follow them. They twisted and turned and spun through space like water flowing around rocks. Every weapon missed them. Every missile passed through empty space where a ship had been a moment before in 60 seconds. It was over. The display showed the Valari fleet. 800 ships. All of them were dark. Their engines were dead. Their weapons were offline. Their shields were gone. They floated in space like dead fish in water, but they were not destroyed. Life support was still working. The crews were still alive. Not one person had died. The human ships had disabled the entire Volari fleet without killing a single person. HFY stared at the display. His mouth hung open. His hands shook. He could not speak. The command center was silent. Every officer, every guard, every person in the room stared at the display. No one could believe what they had seen. Taeho stepped forward. He stood next to Yuna. His face was sad. "That was our scout group," he said quietly. 30 ships. Our smallest vessels, our slowest vessels. They are meant for exploration, not combat. Yuna's voice came out as a whisper. "Your scout group?" "Yes. Our actual fleet is still in human space. We did not think we would need it." Taeho looked at her. His dark eyes were old. Older than they should be. "Your Majesty, I did not come here to threaten you. I came to talk. I came to ask for peace and for the return of our people. I hoped we could solve this with words. And now you have seen what we can do. Just a small part of it. The smallest part." Taeho turned back to the display. "Your fleet is not destroyed. Your people are not dead. We do not want to kill. We do not want to conquer. We just want to be understood." Yuna looked at her admiral. HFY was broken. He stood there like a statue, staring at nothing. His entire life had been about military power, and now he had seen that power mean nothing. "What do you want?" Yuna asked. "The same thing I wanted when I arrived," Taeho said. "I want to talk. I want to explain. And I want you to listen." Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Her empire had just been shown to be weak. Her fleet was useless. Everything she believed about power and strength had been proven wrong in 60 seconds. She should be afraid. She should be angry. She should be planning revenge. But instead, she felt something else. She felt curious. "Everyone out," she said. "I want to speak with the ambassador alone." The officers looked at her with shock. HFY started to protest, but Yuna raised her hand, and everyone fell silent. "Out," she repeated. Now, one by one, they left. Soon, only Yuna and Taeho remained in the command center. The display still showed the disabled Volari fleet, a reminder of what had happened. A reminder of what humans could do. "Tell me everything," Yuna said. "Tell me what you are. Tell me how this is possible. Tell me why a teacher was sent to meet an empress." Taeho smiled. It was a real smile this time. Warm and genuine. "That," he said, "is a very long story. But I think we finally have time to tell it." The command center was empty now. Only Yuna and Taeho remained. The holographic display still showed the Volari fleet floating dead in space. 800 ships, disabled in 60 seconds by 30 small human vessels. Yuna sat down heavily in a chair. Her legs felt weak. Her mind felt slow. Everything she knew about the galaxy had changed in one moment. "How?" she asked. "How is this possible? Our ships are better than yours. Our weapons are stronger. Our technology is more advanced. The reports said so. The scouts confirmed it." Taeho pulled a chair close to her and sat down. He moved slowly, like a teacher preparing to explain something difficult to a student. "Your reports were correct," he said. "In many ways, Volari technology is better than human technology. Your engines are more efficient. Your weapons are more powerful. Your shields are stronger. If we fought you ship to ship, weapon to weapon, you would win. Then how? Because we did not fight you ship to ship. We did not match strength against strength." Taeho leaned forward. "Your Majesty, do you know how old the Volari species is?" Yuna thought about this. "We have records going back 10,000 years. Before that, we were animals. And your civilization? When did you start building cities and writing books and making art?" "About 5,000 years ago. We developed quickly. We reached the stars in 3,000 years." Taeho nodded. "That is impressive. Very impressive. A straight line from caves to stars in 3,000 years?" He paused. "Do you know how old humanity is?" Yuna did not know. The reports had mentioned human age, but she had not paid attention. Humans were new to space travel. They had only left their homeworld a few hundred years ago. They could not be very old. Perhaps 2,000 years? She guessed. 3,000. Taiho smiled that strange, sad smile of his. 300,000 years. Yuna stared at him. She could not speak. The number was too big. It made no sense. That is impossible, she said finally. You only developed space travel recently? If you were that old, you would have reached the stars long before us. We almost did. Many times, and then we fell. Taiho stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Valari capital glowed in the darkness. Beautiful towers of living crystal, reaching toward the sky. Humanity has built civilizations and destroyed them more times than we can count, he said. We rose, and then we fell. We reached for the stars, and then we forgot how to make fire. We created great empires, and then we burned them to ash. He turned to face her. His eyes were old. So old, 14,000 years ago, we built cities larger than this one. We had mathematics and astronomy and medicine, and then everything collapsed. War, disease, climate change. We forgot it all. For 3,000 years, we lived in small villages and thought the old cities were built by gods. That is madness. Yes, it is. We are a mad species. Taiho sat back down. But each time we fell, we learned something. Each time we rose again, we rose differently. We did not just accumulate knowledge like you did. We accumulated ways of thinking. Different approaches, different perspectives, different solutions to the same problems. Yuna began to understand. It was like light slowly filling a dark room. You did not develop in a straight line. No, we developed in a spiral. Forward, down, sideways, up, around. We invented things, forgot them, invented them again, in completely different ways. Taiho gestured at the display showing the disabled fleet. Your engineers solved the problem of space travel one way. It was a good way. A logical way. The most efficient path from point A to point B in humans. Humans solved the problem a dozen different ways. Some were better than yours. Some were worse. Some were completely different. He smiled. Your ships move through space using gravity manipulation. Very advanced. Very powerful. We learned to do that too, about 200 years ago. But we also learned other ways to move. Ways that do not use gravity at all. Ways you cannot predict because you never imagined them. Yuna looked at the display again. The human ships had moved like nothing she had ever seen. Not because they were faster or stronger, but because they were different. Our weapons passed right through them, she said slowly. Because they were not where your weapons expected them to be. Your targeting systems are based on how ships move. You predict where an enemy will be, and you shoot at that place. But human ships do not move the way your systems expect. We move in ways that should not work. Ways that violate the rules your engineers believe in. Physics is physics. The laws of the universe do not change.
No.
They do not change. But there are many ways to use those laws. You found one way. We found 100 ways. Taiho's voice was gentle. Your species developed cleanly, efficiently, logically. That gave you great power. But it also gave you limits. You can only imagine solutions that fit your way of thinking. And humans have no single way of thinking. We have been forced to think around corners, under obstacles, through impossible problems. We learned to be creative because creativity was the only way to survive. He paused. 300,000 years of desperate survival teaches things that cannot be learned any other way. Yuna was quiet for a long time. She understood now. The humans were not stronger than the Valari. They were not more advanced. They were just different. Different in ways that made them unpredictable. Different in ways that made them dangerous. Why tell me this? She asked finally. You are revealing your secrets. You are explaining your power. Why? Because I want you to understand, Taiho said. I did not come here to threaten or to conquer. I came here because I believe the Valari and humans can be partners. We can learn from each other. We can grow together, partners." Yuna laughed bitterly. "You just showed that you could destroy us whenever you want. That is not partnership. That is slavery." "No." Taiho's voice was firm. "We do not want slaves. We do not want subjects. We have tried that path many times in our history. Empire, conquest, domination. It always ends the same way: collapse, suffering, death. We are tired of that cycle. Then what do you want? Trade, cooperation, friendship, if possible." Taiho leaned forward. "The Valari built something beautiful in 800 years. Your crystal architecture alone would take us centuries to understand. Your medical technology is beyond anything we have developed. Your art, your music, your philosophy, all of it is unique and valuable. You want our technology? I want to share. Your knowledge for ours. Your perspectives for ours. Your strengths for ours." He gestured at the window. "The galaxy is vast. There is room for everyone. Humans spent so long fighting each other that we learned the value of cooperation. It is harder than conquest. It is slower than war, but it lasts longer. And in the end, everyone benefits." Yuna stared at him. In all her years as Empress, no one had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever offered partnership instead of submission. No one had ever looked at her empire and seen something to work with instead of something to destroy. "Why should I believe you?" she asked. "Because I am telling you the truth," Taiho said simply. "Because I am a teacher, and teachers tell the truth. Because if I wanted to lie, I would have sent a politician or a general instead of a man who taught children about history and literature." Yuna thought about this. It made a strange kind of sense. A liar would have been more impressive. A liar would have tried to trick her. But Taiho was just himself. Ordinary, honest, real. "The prisoners," she said slowly. "You want them released." "Yes." "But not as a condition of peace. As a gesture of good faith, a first step. And if I refuse?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "Then we will be sad. But we will not attack. We will not destroy. We will just wait. Eventually, you will see that cooperation is better than conflict. We have waited 300,000 years. We can wait a little longer." Yuna looked at the disabled fleet on the display. She looked at the human ambassador sitting before her. She thought about everything she had built and everything she had believed. And for the first time in her life, she wondered if there was a better way. The weeks after the demonstration were difficult for Yuna. Her empire was shaken. Her people were confused. Everything they believed about their power had been proven wrong. Admiral Hayok had locked himself in his quarters. He refused to see anyone. His entire life had been about military strength, and now that strength meant nothing. Some said he had gone mad. Others said he was planning revenge. Yuna did not know which was true. Her advisors were divided. Some wanted war. They said the Empire should build bigger ships, stronger weapons, better defenses. They said the Valari could match human power if they tried hard enough. Others wanted to surrender. They said the humans could destroy the Empire whenever they chose. They said the only choice was to accept whatever terms the humans offered. A few wanted to execute Taiho. They said killing the Espasar would send a message. They said it would show that the Valari were not afraid. Yuna listened to all of them, and then she did something that surprised everyone. She ignored them all. Instead, she spent her time with Taiho. They walked through the crystal gardens together. They watched the sun set over the city. They talked about history and philosophy and art. Yuna had never had conversations like these. As Empress, everyone was afraid of her. Everyone told her what she wanted to hear. No one spoke to her as an equal, but Taiho was different. He did not fear her. He did not flatter her. He just talked to her like a person talking to another person. "Your gardens are beautiful," he said one evening as they walked among the glowing crystal flowers. "On Earth, we had gardens too, but nothing like this Earth. Is that your home world?" "It was. Long ago. We left it behind when we reached the stars, but we still remember it." Yuna touched one of the crystal flowers. It was warm under her fingers. Why did you leave? Many reasons. Some of us wanted to explore. Some wanted to escape. Some just wanted to start again. Taiho smiled at a memory. Humans are restless. We cannot stay in one place for long. We always want to see what is beyond the next hill, the next ocean, the next star. The Volari are not like that. We expand because we must. We conquer because it is our nature. But if we could, we would stay in one place forever. That is not a weakness. That is just different. Taiho sat down on a crystal bench. My people move too much sometimes. We forget where we came from. We lose our roots. You know exactly who you are and where you belong. That is valuable. Yuna sat next to him. For a moment, they were just two people sitting in a garden, watching the stars come out. You could have destroyed my fleet, she said quietly. You could have killed millions. Why did you not? Because that was not what we wanted. Power is always what conquerors want. Taiho shook his head. We are not conquerors. We tried that path many times. It never worked. Empires rise and empires fall. War creates more war. Violence creates more violence. In the end, everyone loses. Then what do you want? Really? I want what all teachers want. I want to learn and to share. I want to understand and to be understood. He looked up at the stars. The galaxy is full of wonders. Different species with different ideas, different art, different ways of seeing reality. Why would I want to destroy that? Why would anyone? Yuna did not have an answer. Her whole life had been about power, about strength, about conquest. She had never questioned it. It was simply how things were. But now she wondered if there was another way. My advisors want me to execute you, she said. Taiho nodded calmly. I know. Some of your guards have discussed it when they thought I could not hear. You are not afraid? I am always a little afraid. Fear is natural. But I made my choice when I came here. I knew the risks. Why did you come? Really? Why send you instead of a fleet? Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. Because we hoped you would choose peace. We hoped that if we showed you our power without using it, you would understand that we did not want war. We hoped that a teacher would be less threatening than a general. He smiled sadly. And we hoped that you specifically would listen. Me specifically. We studied you, Your Majesty. We studied your empire and your people and your leaders. We learned that you are curious, that you ask questions your advisors do not ask, that you sometimes wonder if there is a better way. Yuna felt something strange in her chest. It was like being seen for the first time. Really seen? Not as an empress, not as a symbol, just as herself. And if you were wrong about me, she asked, then we would have tried something else. We always have other plans. Taiho shrugged. But we were not wrong. Here we are, sitting in a garden, talking like friends. That is exactly what we hoped for. Yuna looked at him for a long time. The crystal flowers glowed around them. The stars shone above them. Everything was quiet and peaceful. I will release the prisoners, she said finally. Taiho's eyes widened. It was the first time she had seen him truly surprised. All of them. All of them. Tomorrow. As a gesture of good faith. Thank you, Your Majesty. That means more than you know. I want to discuss trade agreements. Personally here with you. Taiho smiled. It was warm and genuine and happy. I would like that very much, he said. They sat in the garden for a long time after that, watching the stars. Two leaders from two different worlds, beginning something that neither of them fully understood, but they both knew it was something good. 1 year had passed since Taiho arrived at the Volari capital. 1 year since the demonstration that changed everything. 1 year of talking, negotiating, planning, building. Today was the signing ceremony. The new building was called Unity Hall. It stood in the center of the capital, taller than any structure around it. Half of it was made from Volari living crystal, glowing with soft blue light. The other half was made from human steel, strong and simple and honest. The two halves joined together in the middle, creating something new. Something that belonged to both species. Thousands of people filled the Great Hall. Valari officials in their formal robes, human diplomats in their gray suits, representatives from other species who had come to witness history. Cameras broadcast the event to billions across both empires. Queen Yuna stood at the front of the hall. She wore the crown of stars, the symbol of her authority. But she had also added something new, a simple human pin on her collar. Given to her by Taiho, it showed two hands clasping together. Taiho stood beside her. He was still ordinary, still calm, still just a teacher from a colony world, but everyone knew his name now. Everyone knew what he had done. The treaty was long and complicated. It covered trade and travel and technology sharing. It created joint research projects and cultural exchanges. It established rules for handling disputes and protecting both species. It was the most important document either civilization had ever signed. When Yuna put her mark on the treaty, the crowd cheered. When Taiho signed his name next to hers, the cheering grew louder. Valari and humans stood together, celebrating a future that neither had imagined possible 1 year ago. But the real moment came later. After the cameras stopped and the diplomats left, Yuna and Taiho stood on the observation deck of Unity Hall. Below them, the city celebrated. Fireworks exploded over the crystal towers. Music played in the streets. For one night at least, two peoples were becoming one. You planned this from the beginning, Yuna said. It was not a question. Taiho nodded slowly. We planned for possibilities. We studied your people and your leaders. We looked for the best path to peace, the weak ambassador, the demonstration, the conversations in the garden. All of it was calculated. Not calculated exactly. More like hoped for. We knew what might work. We did not know what would work. He turned to face her. But you made the choices, Your Majesty. We showed you the door. You walked through it. Yuna thought about this. It was true. At every step, she could have chosen differently. She could have executed Taiho. She could have declared war. She could have refused to listen, but she had chosen to listen. She had chosen peace. That was her decision, not his. I conquered 12 star systems, she said softly. I ruled the greatest empire in this sector, and I was outmaneuvered by a schoolteacher. Taiho laughed. It was a warm sound. Former schoolteacher. And you were not outmaneuvered. You were given an opportunity. You chose to take it because you made it easy to choose. Perhaps. But the choice was still yours. He looked out at the celebrating city. That is what we learned over 300,000 years. You cannot force people to change. You can only show them that change is possible. The rest is up to them. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. She had spent her whole life learning about power. How to gain it. How to use it. How to keep it. But Taiho had shown her something different. The power of restraint. The power of patience. The power of letting others choose their own path. Humanity is dangerous, she said finally. Yes, not because of your ships or your weapons. No, because you understand power better than we do. Because you know when not to use it.
Taiho nodded.
Power is easy. Any species can develop weapons and fleets and armies. But knowing when not to use them? That takes time. That takes many mistakes. That takes falling and rising and falling again until you finally learn. 300,000 years of lessons, paid for in blood and suffering and death. His voice was sad now. We are not wise because we are better than you. We are wise because we made every possible mistake. We destroyed ourselves so many times that we finally learned how to stop. Yuna looked up at the stars. They seemed different now. Not like territory to be conquered. Not like resources to be claimed. Just stars. Beautiful and mysterious and full of possibility. What happens now? She asked. Now we learn from each other. Valari, precision, and human creativity. Your wisdom and ours. Together, We can build things neither of us could build alone. And if something goes wrong, if we disagree, if conflict arises, then we talk. We negotiate. We find solutions. Tai-Ho smiled. That is what partners do. They work through problems together. It is slower than war. It is harder than conquest, but it lasts. Yuna thought about her empire. 12 star systems built through strength and violence and domination. It had taken 800 years. It was impressive, but she wondered what they could build in the next 800 years. Working together instead of fighting. Creating instead of destroying. Growing instead of conquering. I would like to learn more about human history, she said. About your falls and rises. About your mistakes and lessons. I would be happy to teach you, Tai-Ho said. That is what I do, after all. Teach an empress. Teach anyone who wants to learn. Yuna smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. She had not smiled like that in many years. Then perhaps, she said, it is time for the Valari to become students. Below them, the celebration continued. Valari and humans dancing together. Children of both species playing games. Soldiers who had been enemies standing side by side. It was not perfect. There would be problems and conflicts and disagreements in the years to come. Change was never easy. But it had begun. A new dawn for both species. And it had all started with an ordinary man who believed that words were stronger than weapons. And that the greatest power was the choice not to use power at all. The stars shone down on Unity Hall, bright and eternal. And for the first time in her long life, Queen Yuna looked at them not as a conqueror, but as an explorer. There was so much left to discover. Together,